Hello, Internet. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Instagram. And anywhere else this video may appear. My name is Sammy Huber from SammyHuber.net. Samuel Huber on YouTube. Huber Family Adventures on Instagram. Samuel Huber of Inclusion Tube, the official YouTube page of Inclusion Festival, the first musical festival geared towards autistic people and other special needs and of able body of any kind. I'm here with one of the co-owners, Leah, and she's going to tell us what's going on with her this month and a bit more about what's going on with Inclusion Fest. If she want, Leah, why don't you tell us what's going on with you first before we get into Inclusion Fest?
Hello, thanks for having me. Let's see. We're into quarantine right now. I don't know how long it's been since the beginning of March. So a
53
little
days.
wow, you know exactly. Yeah. Life has definitely shifted a lot for me. My primary role right now is being a mom. Back to full-time caregiver for my twins who are turning 5 in a couple weeks. So that's, been my primary purpose at this moment. I shifted away from a lot of my yoga clients, and I was working in a restaurant, and you know, obviously restaurants are slimmed down their staff right now. So that's not something that I'm doing. I'm taking the time to go through stuff that is like years of stuff that I've been wanting to go through and get myself really organized. Having 2 little kids for such a long time, I just never had that time and didn't take that time because I was with them and
Mhm.
also building the business at the same time. So there wasn't really a whole lot of time and energy left over for
Mhm.
managing the home, if you will.
Right.
So that feels like one of my primary purposes right now. I have also been spending a lot of time in nature. That has been really, really wonderful for me. It's something that I'm really grateful that I have that time right now, and making that time to reconnect with nature. It's felt really, really healing for me.
Mhm.
Um, my kids and I created this designated space out in the woods called the Nest. We kind of took there's a whole bunch of trees that are down, and we cleared a whole bunch of stuff out and made a nice spot, and I'm able to go out there and meditate, and we go out there and play. So little things like that, like just, trying to reconnect with the things that feel really important right now, and that's my family, my kids, and just being with nature and starting a garden for the first time in a very, very long time. I've never made that a priority. So
Ooh, what are you growing?
well, we just had a freeze the other night, so I haven't actually planted. We created a raised bed, and I have 4 tomato plants that I bought from a friend. And then she gave me a bunch of seeds, some carrots. I'm going to get some strawberries and just kind of some herbs,
Mhm.
probably some peppers, and just see what comes up and how that goes. It's kind of new for me, so I'm just going
Mhm.
to see how it goes.
Yeah, we foolishly planted our garden before the last frost, and so we're learning what can stay alive and what can't at the moment in my
Yeah.
family's garden. So you're talking about connecting with nature. Is that something you've always done, or like is that something you're doing just because of the pandemic?
I that's a good question. I haven't necessarily focused my attention on feeling like I need it and want it as much or as often. Like
Mhm.
even I was thinking about this, like in the summertime for the past so many years, my primary focus has been festival season and going to festivals. So, there's an element of like connecting to nature because you're outside and you're camping in a tent, but you're also like surrounded by all these people, and um, you have constant entertainment going on at a festival. You got
Mhm.
music and sensory overload.
Mhm.
Um, so this, dedicated nature time and like being in silence in the woods by myself and, looking for mushrooms, like foraging for mushrooms unsuccessfully, but I tried. um, it's really like, I guess it's new, yeah, a
Mhm.
new level to it anyway. Like I always enjoyed hiking, but, didn't make as much time for it as I would have
Mhm.
liked to. So,
Yeah, I think a lot of families are finding that because when me and my wife and son go to the park, we're finding people that trails that usually used to just belong to us. Now there's loads of people rediscovering nature or discovering nature for the first time. Um, how are your kids adjusting to the whole pandemic? How are they? Is nature helping them cope as well?
I believe so. Yeah, they're getting a lot of outside time, and I've noticed like just the more that they walk and hike, and that there's a bunch of rocks around the house. They love climbing on the rocks. Like all of that stuff is good for them, and I feel like the more time that they can spend doing those kinds of things and just being comfortable and okay with just going for a walk or just like exploring a new place. Like today, I took
Mhm.
them to the reservoir that's close to us, and we pulled into like a random spot, so it wasn't in the park, but a nice little trail, and they were just exploring, like just climbing. And I asked them what their favorite part of the day was, and that was their favorite part, was like their excursion where they were exploring on their own. So I think that kind of stuff is really important. I think it's really calming, to be out in nature for people. And maybe if you don't experience it and really like assess your experience, I guess, or contemplate it,
Mhm.
maybe you don't notice that. uh,
Mhm.
but it's definitely something that I'm noticing for myself, is that when I get out and surround myself with the trees, it really helps and supports me to feel more calm.
Mhm. What would you say to the parents out there who can't get their kids off screen, but like, oh, we forgot there's an outside that we can still go to, which is nature, which hasn't been closed down yet. How would you advise them to get your kids off screen and start enjoying nature again?
Hmm. um I guess it depends on the person, but one thing that I've found very successful, and I've used a lot with students with autism as well, is the idea of using a reinforcer. So saying, okay, so today we're going to, for example, take a 30-minute walk in the woods, and
Mhm.
after the 30-minute walk, then you can have your iPad. So it's like,
Mhm.
we're going to do this first and then we'll have the screen time after. So it's like
Mhm.
making it rewarding, until it becomes a favorable activity. And also, if the opportunity isn't there to drive somewhere and go into nature, like if you don't have it super accessible, maybe create like a dedicated space in the backyard. That would be whether it's like a chair or a hammock or somewhere cozy that you can go and sit, maybe on the grass, with your I have a tree on my behind me, but like I've just been like sitting exactly like that in front of a tree.
Mhm.
So things like that. And I've found that with people with autism, sometimes using a timer can be helpful too.
Mhm.
So to say, okay, you're going to have 30 minutes with your book in nature or
Mhm.
whatever it is, and set the timer. And then when the timer is complete, then, move on to the next activity.
Mhm.
Those are just, I don't know if that
Those are
answers your
those are
question.
some really good tips. Using iPads as a reinforcer to get them to do other things. Um, so how is inclusion zones going? I noticed you did a couple videos recently, yoga related. Can you go into a little bit about your thought process on creating those videos?
Yeah, I don't know, I hadn't really been teaching a whole lot of yoga, and I just felt inspired to share one class, a fairly beginner, gentle class, because I don't know. I have people in my community who have taken classes with me before, and I just thought it could be something nice that I could do. And it was a little bit of a challenge for me, like getting over that hurdle of just being public like that
Right.
and being in that format. Like, it's a very public thing, like going on Facebook Live. Anybody who's connected to you on Facebook can see it and view it.
Hmm.
Um, and it was really interesting because it was like me alone in a room,
Hmm.
but also broadcasting to all these people potentially. I mean, I don't know how many people are actually watching it, but
Right.
like just there's a little bit of a, I don't know, it just felt funny. I'm used to
Yeah.
teaching in front of a room full of people or one-on-one uh,
Right.
in a yoga session. So I don't know, after I did the first one, I got some really positive feedback from people who said that they really enjoyed it. And one takeaway from that, I was talking to Amy about it, I found that for people who may not have felt comfortable going to a yoga class and trying it, that it might be a much more accessible format because there's no pressure. Like, you're not in front of a room full of people. You don't have to even step out of your room. You can be in your own space and maybe watch it or try to practice along, but at your own pace without worrying about what other people are thinking or judging you or all of those things. So um, I found that was actually kind of a cool thing.
Hmm.
And noticed that people who were participating might not have been people who have practiced yoga before or that often. So
Hmm.
I just decided to continue to do it on Mondays at 7 o'clock for now and just see how it goes. I had a lot less participation this week, so we'll see.
Hmm. Yeah, even if you get a few people, it just means maybe you were meant to help those people.
I
Uh,
was thinking about that too.
mhm.
Like, exactly. It doesn't matter how many people are participating.
Right.
It's, yeah, helping somebody. So
Right, because
it's a good
then if they
thing.
have a good time, they spread their words, and that's how they spread the word to their friends. We would do this really great yoga class, and then the next class there's twice as many people, and that's how it goes. And it's very much like online, like, oh, I only had 5 views on this video, crap, and then the next video there could be 25 because those 5 people spread the word about that. And I think yoga is a lot like that.
Yeah,
I'm not much of a yogi myself. I want to be, but one day I'll get there. But my wife, watching my wife do it, it's like it's very much a word of mouth about this teacher and that teacher, and online is definitely a good place for people on the spectrum because we're a different bodied. For people who don't know out there, a lot of people on the spectrum struggle a lot with their gross motor skills, which makes them feel very intimidated to do anything athletic or workouts. But I think yoga is a very relaxing way to get the blood pumping. Uh, and I can certainly see how an online presence would definitely help a lot, especially ones with major social anxiety to experience the magic of yoga.
absolutely.
Um, are you exploring any new types of yoga, or is it just still the same? Like, what type of yoga is it again?
Um, Well, the training that I took was called Deva Leela Yoga, and my
Hmm.
teacher created that. And Deva Leela is Sanskrit for the divine play of life. So she presented us with many different formats and many different ideas and from different traditions, and kind of encouraged us to take whatever we like and make that our own practice.
Hmm.
So that's, I mean, all, not all, I shouldn't say that. There's lots of different traditions or labels, for different yoga classes, but I kind of just do what feels right for me. And I've kind
Hmm.
of created like a gentle, beginner friendly yoga sequence that I feel is a good fit. And I do a lot of trying to infuse mindfulness, like, so pairing the breath with the movement is one way of helping you to be more mindful, or present when you're practicing your yoga. Just
Hmm.
having that awareness of your breath the entire time. So I always come back to those types of cues when I'm teaching.
Hmm.
And also what else did I want to say about that? Oh, I've been picking a theme for each week. Like a couple weeks ago, I focused on grounding. So I was offering different strategies for grounding. And
Mm,
then this week I focused on mindfulness. So similar concepts, but different, and kind of tried to infuse a little bit of teaching into that as well.
mhm. For those of you who are unaware of the concept of something like grounding, what exactly is grounding?
So grounding is having awareness of your connection to the ground below you or the earth, ideally. Walking barefoot on the grass or the ground is a perfect way to explore grounding.
Mhm,
I found this really great article, and I'm not going to be able to share the information as well as this article. It was from the Chopra Center, and
mhm,
Deepak Chopra does a really nice job of fusing um, spirituality and science.
mhm,
And so it gives like scientific reasonings why it's so important to walk barefoot on the ground. Like something
mhm,
about the electrical feedback that you receive from the earth and how that can help and support you so much.
mhm,
um, but in yoga, so we're not necessarily practicing outside, but when I'm standing in mountain pose, my connection is between the bottoms of my feet and the ground or the mat.
mhm,
So just taking the awareness and shifting the awareness down to the bottoms of the feet
mhm,
is a practice in grounding, feeling yourself settling down over those spaces. And one one method is like to kind of visualize that, like a tree, you have roots that are extending down through your feet into the ground, as if they're literally rooting you down and grounding you into the earth.
mhm,
um, so yeah, that's what grounding is. So, and
mhm,
again, if you're seated, focusing on your points of connection. So your sit bones are now grounding, and where your legs are connected. So it's really just having that awareness of wherever your connection points are with the ground.
Awesome. When is like the best time to go grounding? Like for people on the spectrum, there's often what we call like meltdowns. That's what that grounding makes me think of. Like that'd be an excellent time to take off your shoes and go in the grass.
Absolutely.
What would be some other good times for not only people on the spectrum but someone in general, especially during these times, to practice the art of grounding?
I think for every person, you kind of have to figure that out for yourself. Like some people are morning people and might like to get up first thing in the morning and do something really good for themselves, and other people are not morning people and they need their coffee and they need their breakfast or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
um, some people might find, after, like, if you work all day, then maybe you really need to take a break from the computer and get outside for a little while. So maybe that's your ideal time. I think it's really looking at your own life and your own schedule and figuring out what works best for you. That's one thing I'm noticing for myself, because everything right now is open ended.
Mm-hmm.
And I really need to, for myself, schedule certain things. Like I've been saying, I really want to play the guitar more and I just don't do it. So I was thinking, like, okay, well, maybe if I like really look at my calendar and actually schedule, play guitar, like
Mm-hmm.
for these little things that I know would be really good for me and I know that I would really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, practice yoga or get outside, whatever it is. I think that for some people that can be a really helpful strategy.
Mm-hmm. Even if you live in an apartment, if you have a balcony, just going out on your balcony could be another good place. So don't think you're limited just because you live in a big city.
Yeah, I know I I feel for people who live in the city right now. Like my
Mhm.
sister's in Chicago,
Oof.
and but yeah, it just must be really challenging, like not to be able to get that outside time. I'm really, really grateful that I am able to do that. But I mean, there must be ways that you can, bring elements of nature to you, you know, whether it's plants. That same article that I just shared, they said, um, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but there is something that you can buy. It's like a pad that you can stand on, or they also have one that you can sleep on
Mm-hmm.
that basically gives you the same input as physically connecting with the ground or the earth. I forget what it's called, but I thought that that would be a really good thing for somebody
Mm-hmm.
who is in the city and isn't able to, you know, have that connection, that, you know, being able to actually receive that same electrical input would be a
Mm-hmm.
helpful thing.
I definitely agree. I was even thinking just even like getting like buying some miracle like some dirt from Home Depot and putting it in a bucket, putting your feet in the dirt.
Yeah.
I think would be a great way for people in the city. 'Cause I know Home Depots do, but during this time would be an excellent way to feel that life force, that electricity.
Yeah.
Um, and just like little ways like that, just touching nature, interacting with it, I think is ways people in the city could definitely still benefit.
Yeah,
Um,
growing plants would probably be a really helpful thing too. Like, you know, they have like those setups now that you can get like grow lights or whatever. Like if you, I know in the city sometimes you don't have as much space and maybe that's not feasible, but
mhm,
that could also be another way, because when you're interacting and like helping and supporting this living and breathing organism, that also is going to give you some
mhm.
helpful feedback, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like they're vertical gardens. And there's the thing that me and my wife ordered called Aero Garden, which is like using UV lights to grow plants inside all year round. Like so, there are many options out there, people that we can still work with the plants, and it also gives us something to do because it's only so many times we can rearrange our closets
Right.
during this time. Um, so, what's the theme for your next class?
That's a good question. I haven't come up with it yet. I stuck with, because so with the inclusion zones, the group, the Facebook group, every day is associated with one of the chakras.
Mhm,
So Monday is the root zone, which is chakra 1. So both of my topics have been associated with chakra 1 so far.
mhm,
Um, I I don't know how long I can continue on with coming up with themes that are associated with chakra 1. So I'm not sure if I'll move up
mhm,
chakras maybe.
mhm.
I have to figure that out.
Yeah, maybe you could
Good.
teach people how to connect the chakras, or go on Pinterest. There's so many ideas out there for the root. The root chakra, it's what brings our ideas to life, really. And without it, we're just floating in space.
Yeah, that's
And for
that's a
people on the spectrum, like we're born floating in space, so there's definitely, I think, still a lot of avenues for a root chakra meditation and yoga, and definitely the inclusion community could definitely use a lot of root chakra, especially with all the fear and uncertainty going on these days.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've had a lot of students that like I've felt that, like just that act of grounding, like physically connecting,
Hmm.
be so helpful, because you're right, the way that you described it makes so much sense, like that you're out in space, that it's almost like you need to be like pulled down into your body, and
Hmm.
that's what that focus on grounding can help and support. So that's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah, and it's also really good for autistic adults who always had a big support system to help them ground, but now wait, I have to ground on my own.
Mm,
I think that's an excellent way to, you know, for a lot of adults on the spectrum that are struggling out there, like grounding, I think would be an excellent practice to learn not only stay focused and here on this in this reality. It allows us to actually complete tasks for anyone out there that's struggling that may be watching this video. Like, I grounding would be a great place to start. So checking out Leah's class, guys, would be definitely the first place to start.
well, thanks.
Um,
One thought that just came to mind, a strategy that I've used with some of my students with autism is on their yoga mat, I trace their feet in like mountain pose, like in perfect standing posture. So
Mm-hmm.
some of my students have trouble standing still, like are constantly in motion or rocking back and forth, or,
Mm-hmm.
just in not able to stand still very easily. But having that visual cue of where to put the feet in perfect standing posture. And also, I know I talked about the timer before, but I did have a student that I used that with. Like I would set a timer for 1 minute and have him stand in the perfect standing posture for 1 minute. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is just another strategy to explore and might be helpful.
Yeah, and also moving meditation slash yoga is very helpful. I know with kids yoga, they're like pretending you're an elephant with the nose. And
Mm.
for those who have kiddos out there who are like, I want to calm my child down with yoga, but how do I do that? Because like getting a child to sit still is next to impossible.
Yeah, Amy actually just did a really nice video about walking meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the strategies that, and her method of walking meditation was a little bit different than what I'm going to describe, but I've found this helpful with students that I've worked with autism, is counting while
Mm-hmm.
you're stepping. So even like you described, people who have trouble standing or sitting still, while they're in movement or motion, just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Mm-hmm.
and keep cycling through 1, 2, 3, 4. So the act of counting those four numbers and pairing that with the steps
Mm-hmm.
is a mindfulness practice, and also is helping with grounding because you're having more awareness of your
Mm-hmm.
steps. So whether you're counting it out loud for yourself, or if it's somebody who's not able to do that for themselves, that a
Mm-hmm.
teacher or a parent could help and support them with that could be another really good strategy.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very good strategy because for those out there who don't know, people on the spectrum love patterns. And completing a count, like a count to 10, is very good because if we don't complete the pattern, we often get fixated and we stay in our space. But focusing on completing the pattern brings us back down to reality. And I think that's a huge misconception about meditation and yoga is you have to empty your mind. But for someone on the spectrum or a lot of people, like the idea of emptying your mind is really, really hard because um, but using nature and walking and counting and using patterns is definitely, I think, a way to help people do yoga and meditation that doesn't have to be for an hour, um, which can be
Yeah.
hard for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. I had two thoughts that I wanted to share, but like the counting strategy has been really helpful for me.
Mhm.
I have done that like on extended hikes, done my best to try to focus on those numbers. And also like if I'm skiing, I've done it then, like as I go side to side, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like it's a really good practice. In just, yeah, giving yourself something to focus on, but not having it be blank, because then like those thoughts arise, right? But you
Right.
always have something to come back to when the thoughts arise.
Hmm.
um I had another thought. I i lost it. I'll let you know
Yeah.
if it comes back.
If not, if you remember it later, you can say on the next Leah's way.
Okay.
So no worries. So I would like to wrap up this episode of Leo's Way with what does inclusion look like in a situation like the world is in now?
Inclusion in general.
Well, how can people still feel included during COVID-19? Is my question for you tonight.
Hmm. Well, I mean, we were talking about this, I think, before we actually got on the interview. Just this new platform, like that so much is happening virtually now.
Mm,
So I guess seeking out something that feels like a good fit for you. There's so much available now, right? There's so
mhm,
much content, and it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't have to be in driving distance anymore, right? So
right.
like I started taking a creative hoop class,
Hmm.
and I love it. And that can be for anybody who wants to participate. And Zoom might be like having a video conference might be intimidating for some people. So
Hmm.
maybe seeking out the format that works best for you. And maybe it's connecting with a group of friends or some community and setting something up. Like my sister's been having arts and crafts time, like dedicated arts and crafts time with her friends via Zoom.
Mm.
There's games that you can play. Like my family has done trivia, and we have a Monopoly game that we're going to be playing this weekend virtually. So like, there's just so much
Mhm.
out there that people can access, which is kind of cool. Like,
Mhm.
so I guess figuring out what you're passionate about, what your interests are, and then trying to find other people that you can connect with, and engage in those activities.
All right, Leah, thank you so much for giving us some of your time tonight. All right, folks, that is our second episode of Leah's Way. We'll have her again next month, unless she comes up with more things to talk about. Then we might have her much sooner here on Inclusion Tube. All right, folks, this is Sam Hewer and Leah signing off.
Thank you so much, Sam. This is great.